This is the Loaded Radio Podcast.
All right, hey, what's up? It is Scott Penfold, and this is another edition of the Loaded Radio Podcast. And yeah, man, got a twofer again this week. So yeah, pretty hyped about this one. As I'm going to be talking to, first off, Kenny Hickey, who is the frontman and guitarist for the new, I guess you could even call it a supergroup, I Am, which also features Johnny Kelly on drums, along with Kirk Windstein from CROWBAR down and Kingdom of Sorrow, and Todd Strange from CROWBAR and down as well in there to round out the foursome. Now, Kenny and Johnny were formerly from the band Typo Negative, as well from SILVERTOMB, Seventh Void. They spent a lot of time together, and definitely want to talk about, well, of course, I Am, but really want to dive into some Typo Negative stuff with Kenny as well, longtime guitarist for Typo Negative. And being that I'm a massive fan of Typo, I think this is going to be great to be able to talk to Kenny. So after we talk to Kenny, though, I'm going to be talking with Josh Andrews, who is the drummer for a band that is really, really making a serious impression on people lately. And I'm talking about the band PUPIL SLICER. Some great London, UK, call them mathcore, death grind, black gaze, who knows. It's a great extreme metal, and they have the new album Blossom. We're talking to Josh Andrews from PUPIL SLICER after we talk with Kenny. So yeah, a great edition of the Loaded Radio Podcast this week, I'm telling you, man. And we're going to get right down to it, okay? The name of the new band is I Am, and again, it features former Typo Negative members Kenny Hickey and Johnny Kelly, as well as Kirk Windstein and Todd Strange from CROWBAR and Down. Quite the foursome, man, I'm telling you. They've got the debut single, Dreams Always Die with the Sun, which you can check out now. And this is a band who have, even though they've only released one track, are already causing an incredible reaction from metal fans. So Kenny Hickey joining us right now, guitarist and vocalist from the band. Kenny, thanks so much for joining us on the Loaded Radio Podcast this week.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, Scott.
Oh, no problem at all. I really want to dive into I Am first off, because, I mean, this is a really cool thing, man. It really seems to be taking off as well. How did I Am initially sort of come together as a unit?
I came together through a mutual friend of ours and Kirk Windstein, Drew Spalding, who is the guy who launched Corpse Paint Records. And he was a long-time drinking buddy of mine, and he was the merch guy for Typo and Danzig. So he did a lot of touring with me. I'd say from the 2006 or 7 on to the end of the band. And it just so happens, you know, I've been friends with Kirk for years too.
Yeah.
But it just so happens, you know, Drew came from New Orleans as well. And since he was drinking buddies with me, he used to run into Kirk when he went home all the time in the bars and end up drinking and hanging out with him, you know. So he got really close to both of us on those two ends of the spectrum. And he always wondered, like, you know, hey, you know, I'd love to get you guys into a room and see, you know, what music will come out of you, you know. So, you know, fast forward years ahead, he gets sober, Drew gets sober, I get sober about 3.5 years ago. So does Drew. Yep. You know, cleans up his life, quits his shitty job that he hates, and, you know, starts following his dreams. He starts Corpse Paint Records, and he's like, the first thing I want to do is something I've always dreamt about, and it's get you, Kirk, Johnny, and Todd, everybody in a room and see, you know, what kind of music comes out of it. So that's really how it started.
Oh, awesome.
It wasn't any of the players' idea. It was Drew's idea. So, you know, Drew was just like, all right, when you have time, and we spotted an opening, and he was like, he just booked flights and he booked studio time. He put up all this friggin' money. You know, I mean, it's a lot of money to fly 4 guys out and then, you know, rent a rehearsal studio and then a recording studio for days, you know.
How do you like writing with Kirk?
Oh, it was great. I mean, it was a great experience. I mean, I was very nervous about it at first. You know, you don't want to let down your friends. I don't want to let down Drew too. He put up all this money.
Sure.
Right. So like weeks before, I think, you know, I got like thousands of riffs on my phone, and I pulled some riffs out that I thought were cool. Yeah. And sent them to Kirk. And he didn't have any way, I don't know, technically at the time to send his ideas back to me. But he was just like, oh, these are cool riffs, whatever. You know, I do most of my writing in the studio, which made me shit my pants. I'm like, wait a minute. You know? I don't go into a studio and rent time and write, you know. This is not Led Zeppelin, you know. And,
right.
And what if it goes bad, you know? It was terrifying.
Yeah.
So I had a few riffs, sent it to him, and then nobody knew what was going to happen. You know, I got off the plane in Florida.
Yeah.
And we went right to a rehearsal studio, and bang, we just the energy and the chemistry was right there. We just started arranging and writing the song. We had it basically mapped out in an hour and a half. In the rehearsal studio.
Really,
me, John, Todd, and Kirk. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love the song. Dreams Always Die with the Sun is a killer track, man. Tell me like the story behind that track, how it came to fruition.
Like I said, a couple of riffs I sent to him, yep. And then it spun off an idea for with Kirk for the outro riff is Kirk's riff. So the whole dreams always die with the sun on the end of the song, that's Kirk's riff. So he added that to my intro and verse riff. Yeah. We threw them together in the studio. I know Johnny was like, well, the opening lick reminds me of Sly and the Family Stone. So we did this double time beat coming into this, and it just grew from there, spontaneously, organically, right there on the spot. And then obviously the next day we were in the studio. Literally the second day we were there, we're in the studio. All right, you got to record now. So, we just got together. We jammed a song. It was like 6.5 minutes long. We had this whole jamming outro to it and stuff. And it got very, very 70s jam, the end of it. Nice. And, there's always the problem of lyrics. I looked at Kirk. He was like, well, the hardest thing is finding what to write about. And I was like, yeah, that's the hardest thing. I went back to the hotel and I was like to my wife, what the fuck do I write about? And she's like, well, write about friends passed on, friends gone. I get a lot of those. Yeah. And so that's what the idea for the lyrics started, the idea for the lyrics. And I was literally writing the lyrics in the van on the way to the studio. So
when can we expect more material from the band?
Well, I was just working on material right now. So we're getting together in New Orleans, June 23rd, this month, in a week or two, week and a half. And we're going to do 11 days. So we're going to get together for 3 days, write and arrange some stuff, go right to the studio and see how much we can record in 8-9 days.
At least get an EP out of it maybe then.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't expect an LP. I mean,
yeah.
We don't do drugs anymore. It's not the 70s anymore. You don't do an album in 10 days like Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath did.
Yeah, well, 30 hours the first Zeppelin album. But you know what? I do want to talk about you and Johnny. I mean, I love the fact that you and Johnny have always had this cohesiveness with Seventh Void, then with Silvertomb, of course, with Typo Negative. Is there a real closeness there, or is it more of like a comfortability with creating music? Like, what is that relationship?
Oh, yeah, it's close. It's like brother closeness. I mean, I met Johnny when he was 17. I was 20 in 1987. A long time. It's a lot of years.
Yeah.
We learned to play together and we grew up together. So, yeah, we don't really have to talk much when hashing stuff out. It just happens.
He's your drummer. That's just the way it is.
He's my drummer. He's my buddy. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I do want to bring up Seventh Void for a second there. I wanted to ask you your experience in working with Vinnie Paul through that experience.
Oh, it was amazing. Amazing. Yeah. I mean, I never expected to have Vinnie put it out on his label. We originally sent him one of the tracks from the record to see if he knew somebody who could mix it or if he would mix it. Yeah. And he loved it so much. He was so into it. He was so psyched about it. He was like, I want to put this out on my label, and it was an awesome experience. We went down to his house in Texas and hung out and we mixed the album together and we did our record release party at the clubhouse over there. It's your usual big party.
Yeah.
Dallas, in Arlington. It was a great way to start a band and launch a band.
Touching on Vinnie, how do you feel about the reformed touring Pantera, or the version of that band out there right now? Is this something that you'll go check out?
Absolutely, man.
Yep.
I mean, it's got to be fucking amazing. I mean, yeah, we own Pantera was amazing, but this has got to be amazing as well. I mean, I couldn't think of a better lineup to pull it off. Yeah. And so, it's going to be great.
Now, does the ongoing popularity of Typo Negative still surprise you? I mean, the fact that the band is just still so popular today?
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising. I'm very grateful for it. Yeah. And, I mean, the band is transcended, which is amazing. It's reached a whole new generation. So we're doing really better than we were doing before Peter passed.
Yeah.
The whole resurgence on it, which is good. It's a testament to, the work we put into it and the honesty we put into it, the years of sweat, and it's the music. There was realism to the music,
Do you still talk to Josh Silver at all?
Of course. He's my brother-in-law. He's married to my wife's sister.
Oh, I see. I did not know that.
Yeah. We're in I've been in Staten Island now for like 20 years, and he's in Brooklyn, still in the same house. Mm-hmm. And he's got a family, and with my wife's sister, and we still together on holidays and in family meetings, and we're all close. So, is
he still involved in music at all?
No, not at all. Not at all. He's a paramedic now for the city of New York.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's been now for a long time.
Oh, so has he just lost a desire? Is this just found something new that he loves? Or
Josh is an all or nothing guy. So he's 150% into whatever he's doing. So if he's not doing music, then he's 150% paramedic.
Oh, see.
So he's he's currently picking up body parts in East New York.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, not too much of a departure from Typo Negative then.
No, he's Mr. Death.
That's right. I asked Johnny previously about a year ago a question, and it went kind of viral online. And I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Johnny, was that if there was any plan or any discussion at all about some kind of a tribute show or anything dedicated to Peter. Has that been discussed at all?
No, I mean, people have like approached us, to try and reform the band with a singer and, go on the road, and everybody wants a money grab,
Sure.
We personally don't think Peter's replaceable by anybody, and it would just it just wouldn't work,
Yeah.
But a tribute I'd love to do. I'm sure Johnny would love to do it too. I know Josh wouldn't do it because Josh, like I said, he's picking up body parts in East New York. He's not going to stop that to get to start rehearsing.
Sure.
But we would do it with guest musicians and stuff. If somebody had the idea and got it together and got the logistics together, sure, I would be into it.
That would be awesome. And I remember when I asked Johnny about it as to who he would like to see step in for Peter, he had mentioned Ann Wilson from Heart as one person. Who's somebody that you would love to see maybe take on that position?
Ann Wilson would be great, but she probably never heard of us.
You never know, though.
You never know.
Who's someone that you would like to see maybe step into that role for one night or for a few songs?
Axl Rose. Really?
That would be different.
Yeah.
Seeing Axl Rose do Love You to Death would be very cool.
Very fucking cool.
With Typo Negative, is there new material still coming out? I mean, is there still stuff that's coming out? I know that there is constantly, we're still finding out about like reissues. We're finding out about vinyl box sets. What's coming up for Typo releases?
We had a Dead Again.
Dead Again, yeah.
So I think we're almost done re-releasing all the records. Life is Killing Me has to be done. But
Life is Killing Me, yeah. Right. But is there any Typo Negative material or songs that have yet to be released?
No. There's nothing recording in the studio that hasn't been released. No, we always filled up every record. We never had anything left over. Really? I mean, the most we can do is what we're thinking about, like kicking around, is releasing a live.
Oh, yeah. That would be cool.
Yeah, a live record, which would be cool, yeah.
So do you guys have enough material to like release a good substantial, cool live release?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of professional videos that were taken of us when we played festivals in Europe over the years. Dynamo, so on.
Live Typo album would be phenomenal. That'd be great to have. Now looking back at your time with Typo, what memories usually come to mind the most when you think back to your time with Typo Negative?
Laughing, all the funny shit that went on, man. It's just a bunch of clowns, really.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be this like gothic dark band, but we were just a bunch of jokers all the time, So really, playing music with my friends and then laughing till 3 a.m. on the bus afterwards. That's what I miss. That's what I think about.
And it's funny when people think of Typo Negative, they think of the Drab 4, obviously.
Meanwhile, we're all drunk and blasting the Beatles at 3 a.m. and singing at the top of our lungs.
Now, after Peter's death, there was never any question for you guys that the band was finished at that point. Is that right?
Yes, it was done. Absolutely. No question at all between any of us now.
Back to just you personally and to you and what you're doing yourself when it comes to, of course, you've been busy involved with IM. Is there anything else you're involved with musically right now? Like what else are you involved in? What else are you doing right now?
I mean, I only got so much time, so much hands, I have Silvertomb right now and I'm currently in the middle of mixing that record. So
cool, man.
Put that out. And now I'm writing for IM with Kirk. So we're going to get together at the end of the month to come up with more material for IM. So, I'm going to have a lot of stuff coming out this year. I can't extend myself any further.
No.
Because I get like really, really attached emotionally to stuff, and I obsess over stuff. I get an obsessive personality, so I can come up with a riff and I'll roll it around 18,000 different ways until I decide that's it, you know?
No,
So,
I get you.
2 bands will nearly drive me insane. 3 bands would kill me.
Yeah, I can imagine, man. You guys are already at this point with one song and you're getting so much attention. And you said that you're going to go in and start working on something like possibly an EP or some music. Obviously, the next step would be to do some live dates. I mean, obviously, it's very, very early, but has there been talk about maybe in the future hitting the road and doing some live stuff?
Yes, there's already been interest in booking us for Europe in 2024. So yeah,
awesome.
It's already starting. So it's just saying everybody's got a very busy schedule, and I think that would make the most sense is if we just take all our bands and go out together.
Yeah. You know what, Kenny, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk to us here on Loaded Radio today, man. Again, you are such an iconic musician and player to me personally as someone who's worked in rock radio for so long. So I can't thank you enough, man.
Oh, thank you so much, dude. Thank you.
So there he is, man. That's Kenny Hickey from I Am, as well as Typo Negative, SILVERTOMB, Seventh Void. Just a really great talking to Kenny. That was really cool because I mean, I've always been such a huge, massive Typo Negative fan, and when you get to talk to somebody from one of your top favorite bands, it's always a little bit cooler. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that was great. Anyway, how you doing though? It's Scott Penfold here on the Low Radio Podcast, and now on to our second guest. I'm now being joined by the drummer from Rising London, UK, mathcore, death grind, metalcore, black gaze, whatever you want to call him. If you got to classify him even, band, that would be PUPIL SLICER. Now, just released the album Blossom, the follow-up to their debut, which was Mirrors. Mirrors was a great record, man. PUPIL SLICER are all out metal, and they are great. Great sound, being rounded out by vocalist, guitarist Kate Davies and bassist Luke Fabian. This band is making some serious damage. So, Josh, thanks huge for joining us on this week's Loaded Radio Podcast.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
I really dig the band, man. I mean, I remember when the first album came out, I was like right into it, and I played the hell out of it for a long time. So I'm really excited to really hear what Blossom has got available for us. I've heard a few tracks, but I'm pretty excited.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Thanks for checking out the tracks already. But yeah, the album's out in a few days. So hopefully there'll be a bit more to dig into then. Now, who produced the album, Josh? So it was Lewis Johns, who works at the Ranch production studio, and he produces quite a lot of UK bands. Like recently he's done Rolo Tomasi, Ithaca, just to name a couple off the top of my head, Employed to Serve as well. So yeah, we're quite stoked to work with him.
Nice. How was it working with him?
Yeah, it was good. It was kind of a new experience for us because we did one single with him about a year before we went into the studio just to see how it was. But going in for like a month and tracking a whole album was like a totally new experience. So there were some stressful moments, some fun moments, but I think at the end of the day, we pushed each other to make a record we're all proud of. So yeah, it ultimately is a great experience.
Comparing it to the first album, like what are we dealing with?
I think the fairest comparison would be, from what you said, is maybe an evolution. I think there's definitely elements of the first album that are still in there. But as a whole, I'd say it's like an evolution of the sound, and we're sort of branching out into areas that we only touched on very, very faintly in the last album, for like whole songs in this album, for example. So, an evolution, I'd say.
Well, I'd say certainly of the tracks I have heard so far, I've heard about 3 or 4 tracks now. I love the title track the most. I really dig that. What can you tell me about the title track of the album?
I definitely think it's the most standout track on the album. It's definitely one. I think we released it first because we kind of wanted to surprise people a little bit and give them something that they've never. I think there isn't really anything like that song on Mirrors at all. So we kind of wanted to hit people with something completely different. And yeah, I think it's a good track. We've been playing it a little bit live as well when we've been on tour with Boris for just under a month last month, and we played it live, and it seemed to get people moving in a bit of a different way to usual, which was quite cool. So yeah, we thought it was a cool, catchy track, and yeah, people seem to be enjoying it, which is great.
Yeah, it's almost got like, as I'd call it, almost beautifully brutal, if that makes sense. It's a great sonic track. I think it really works.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'd say it's definitely a bit of a. I'd say it's a little bit lighter, but there's still the heavy elements in it that sort of hit you around halfway into it, and towards the end, the little flares of heaviness. So yeah, we didn't want people to think we've completely gone away from our last sound, but at the same time, we kind of wanted to show, what else we've got in the locker.
Another great track, No Temple. What can you tell me about that one?
So yeah, No Temple was a bit of a funny one. It was me and Kate were talking a little bit before we went into the studio, and it was kind of taking us a while to be happy with that one. There was other tracks on the album we were enjoying a lot more, but then we put like a lot of electronic stuff on the album, which is something we've not really done before. I say like Kate and Lewis were pretty much the ones handling all that side of thing. And I think it really elevated the track to a new level, and I'd say it's probably the heaviest track on the album. So yeah, for the first two singles, we kind of went for the heaviest and the softest.
There's a real big juxtaposition between those two tracks, right? But I mean, both great, phenomenal tracks, but there is that certain element of, I guess you could say, even bookends for the album, would you say?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say they were good. They were good. Yeah, juxtaposition the two singles in that respect. And yeah, I think in the context of the album, No Temple's the sort of middle point as well, which is quite cool. But yeah, definitely, I'd say it shows our two, the extremities of the different stuff you're going to hear on the album, for sure, the best.
Which really leads into my next question here, because I mean, there is such a diversity in your sound. I mean, there's elements of mathcore, there's grindcore, straight up death metal, I mean, even some Black and Death. I mean, is that an intentional thing, or is it just sort of flow out of you guys like that?
I think it's, I think, me, Kate and Luke have quite a lot of different influences of bands we like. Especially me and Kate quite like the sort of black gaze and shoegaze stuff. Luke's a bit more of a traditional metalhead, and then mathcore we're all quite a big fan of. So I guess we're sort of just wearing our influences on our sleeves a bit. And I think with we closed the last album with our most sort of post metal black gazy kind of song, and we definitely were like, let's try and chuck a bit more of those influences on the new album. So yeah, lots of different sounds have come out of it, and maybe it's us all being a bit of a product of growing up with the internet and get happy and having loads of different scenes and music genres available to us pretty much instantly. Is kind of made for such an eclectic mix of music.
And even just going back to the history of the band, you guys haven't been around a really long time at all. I mean, but how did you and Luke and Kate really come together?
Yeah, so funny enough, me and a vocalist, our original vocalist who isn't in the band anymore, we're in a black metal kind of black gaze project together, and we weren't really getting any gigs. But we sort of applied. We put a post up on a website called Join My Band for another guitarist, and I think literally on the day we had a rehearsal booked, and Kate messaged us and was like, "Oh, do you want to?" I'm interested. And we sort of messaged back, do you want to come and jam for a little bit? And Kate came along, and that's the first time we met, which is quite weird to think now where everything's gone with it. But, just responding to a random message. I think I remember it being really cheesy message as well. It was trying to be quite funny, hark, a crow has come and bestowed you a parchment to join our black metal band, or something stupid like that, which probably scared 90% of the people off. But yeah, that's how that started. And then we did the same basically with Luke. Later down the line, he just through online, basically, we got talking to him, and he came to a practice, and yeah, here we are. So hooray for the internet. Finally something useful came out of it.
Now, do you get asked about the band name a lot?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, people always say, is it from that? I can't even remember them. It's like the Spanish Salvador Dali film, where like the beginning of the film, he cuts an eye. It's like a 1920 silent thing, and people even say not in interviews, saying like articles, oh yes, the band who got their name from this. It's like we didn't, but if you want to think that is probably a lot better. I think basically we had that black metal project with our original vocalist, and then Kate and him were having a bit of a drink, a bit of a session, and we're just like coming up with really stupid names for a laugh. And then they came up with that name and sort of started to write some grindcore music to kind of go with it. And we sort of started it and recorded an EP with it, and we're getting offered lots of gigs. And we're like, oh, it's either the name. Well, it must be the name, because we haven't really got any proper music released. So, yeah, that's kind of how the name came about. A drunken session, basically, of trying to think of really stupid names, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, when something hits, I guess it just hits, right? I mean, it's a great, grotesque name, which certainly draws attention. I think it definitely works.
Yeah, 100%. It seems to, it sticks in your mind, which I think's, the most important thing about a band name. I don't think band names are super important, but I think, once you tell people you're in a band called Pupil Slicer, or you hear of a band called Pupil Slicer, you're probably not going to forget it.
We had mentioned, of course, some of the genres, and how you were influenced by many genres, like like mathcore or black gaze, grindcore, even of course death metal. If you did have to classify Pupil Slicer, what genre would you classify it as? Because I mean, these days everybody's got to sort of classify this type of music or metal that you deliver. If you had to do it, where would you put it?
Oh, I don't know, somewhere between. I guess, like, if you wanted to put a broad stamp on it, maybe metal, like just metalcore, I guess. But then, with the black metal influences, does that really fit into that category? It's hard to say, really. I mean, maybe there'll be some new name for all this sort of new wave of like mathcore, black gaze adjacent bands, but it's you can get a bit pinned down with genres, but we get compared to like a lot of bands we love, when I think that's what hits home a little bit more, and than sort of poking us in any genres or anything, which is cool.
You know what? Maybe it should be called Pupil Core. There we go.
I'd love that.
So obviously, with Blossom dropping in just a couple of days, so what are the plans then after the album drops for you guys? What are you guys going to be doing? You hitting the road?
So we're playing Download Festival the next week on the Friday, which is going to be really fun, but a little bit nerve-wracking, because Download is probably the biggest metal. It is the biggest metal festival in the UK, I'd say. Metallica are headlining, Slipknot are headlining another day, and then they've got Bring Me the Horizon, who they're bringing up to the. I think people have been demanding for quite a while, we want a new headliner, and they've given it to Bring Me the Horizon, which I think is pretty cool and will be quite exciting. But yeah, I mean, I went to Download last year. I've been, a lot of years in the past, so that's going to be really fun. And then we're going to another festival in Poland called Mystic Festival the day after we play Download, which will be really cool as well. That's got a lot of really sick bands, including Meshuggah, who've been on my bucket list to see for years. So I'm going to try and catch them.
But yeah, taking Download, the stage of Download, that must be somewhat overwhelming.
Yeah, I think we're luckily, because we've had this tour with Boris in the last month. We've had like plenty of shows to get quite tight with each other and ready for the big gig, which is a bit reassuring. And we've got a lot of electronic sort of samples and stuff on this album that we wanted to get into the live setup. We've been practicing, we've been playing with that for the Boris tour as well, and incorporating that into the live performance as well. So hopefully people will be, people from the UK who haven't seen us in a while will be, a bit blown away with this new material. That's the plan, hopefully. But yeah, we'll see how it all goes. But yeah, we're just going to try and enjoy ourselves, and yeah, it should be sick.
Yeah. Now, what about North American tour plans? Anything like that in the books as of yet, or any plan for it?
So we got a UK tour with Employed to Serve, which we're really stoked for at the end of the year. And I think, with that said, and, all the stuff we got planned in the summer, that'll, I'd say more likely than not we'll sort of, pin off America this year, but you never know if a crazy offer came in, but, Slipknot or something. Yeah, no, I'm only joking. But
you never know, though, buddy. You never know.
Yeah, that's why you got to name drop it in the interviews. You never know. I think like the sensible plan is hopefully 2024. Because we'll still be touring this new album, we'll get to come to the US, because it's one of them things you dream about when you first start playing music, and getting a band that starts playing gigs, coming over to America. Yeah, it'd just be awesome. So yeah, hopefully it's a little bit more realistic now. We've toured Europe and got these bigger festivals under our belt. We can hopefully get over to the USA next year.
It'd be great to have you over here in North America, that's for sure, because I think you do have a lot of fans out here, man. I'm telling you, in the US and Canada, because, well, people love their extreme metal out here a lot, and you guys certainly deliver that. So it'd be really good to see you. Yeah,
100%. And whenever I speak to people, when we've been playing with other bands and they've been to America, they've said how great it is and what a great scene it is, and how essential it is really for bands to get over to the US, because the European scene and the American scene are just both thriving at the moment, so in different ways. So it'll be cool to see if we can get over soon.
Awesome. Josh, thanks so much for your time again, man, and looking forward to getting over here to North America. It'd be awesome to see you.
Yeah, thanks so much for taking the time to speak to me, and hopefully I'll get over to the US at some point soon.
There he is. That is Josh Andrews, the drummer for PUPIL SLICER, and the new album Blossom is available. You can check that out, and it's great sounding stuff, man. If you're into extreme metal with breakdowns but kind of a gaze kind of feel to it, just check it out for yourself. They are PUPIL SLICER. Don't forget, check out loadedradio.com. It's right there for you, a click away, and it's got all your hard rock and metal news updated constantly as well. A 24-hour radio station there, constant stream of hard rock and metal with live hosts and niche programming and shows. You can also get past episodes of this podcast there as well. And don't forget, the Loader Radio app is available wherever you get your apps, or at loaderradio.com, and it's completely free. All that stuff I just told you, you can get right on your device there too via the Loader Radio app. Okay? This is Scott Penfold, and I'll talk to you again next week for an all-new edition of the Loader Radio podcast, where we'll be talking to Des Fafera from Cold Chamber and Devil Driver. Des was originally supposed to be on this episode, but it got pushed ahead a week, so all good, man. Can't wait to talk to Des next week, and I can't wait to talk to you again next week right here on the Loader Radio podcast.
Loaded Radio.